Knuckles was one of the first ever characters I remember liking as a child. It's so long ago now that I don't even remember why I like Knuckles, but something about his flying, climbing and punches, I don't know, but it stuck the landing for my childhood self and I was hooked. And Wizards arrives just in time to manipulate my childhood nostalgia into a $40, no wait, there's free secret layers with Knuckles, $120, wait, I'm British, $163 package, and I'm all for it. Thankfully, Knuckles the Echidna's card appeals to me and has a lot to like. When I started to think about how to build the deck, 3 things jumped out to me. First, that's a lot of keywords. Double Strike and Haste stand out the most, but Trample is pretty good to back them up, and makes me want to strap Knuckles up with, well, more than his own gloves for maximum efficiency. Second, Commander players love treasures, and an attack from Knuckles gives us 2 minimum with a potential for 6 if we go wide enough in a 4-player game. Finally, 30 artifacts to win the game? Not an easy feat, but you can't not try if you play Knuckles. But where to start? Well, getting more treasure will make everything else easier, so let's start with this ability. Damage a player, get a treasure. To maximise this ability, we want to start hitting every player at the table and keep doing so. This means a 1-drop turn 1, a mana rock turn 2, and Knuckles turn 3 is how we want most our games to start. This will give us 3 treasures to play another creature with, and then generate 3 to 6 treasures a turn, provided we can keep attacking, and it's our ideal game plan. Doing the math, having about 11 1-drops and 11 2-mana rocks will let us do this 90% of the time, which is good enough for me. And with that, I scoured Scryfall for the best 1-drops in red for Commander.
It won't be easy.
Okay, it wasn't that bad, but mono red does limit our options just a tad. Not that I overly mind, I enjoy finding decks where weird niche cards make sense like nowhere else. I found a few interesting cards like this Goblin on my journey, but its 0 power doesn't help us. One card I didn't need to find was Ragavan, and it really does help, being the best way to start a Commander game in red without us solving, and helping our treasure plan too. Dragon's Face Channeler also makes its first appearance in a Commander deck for me, able to attack early and then keep attacking and making treasure later in the game thanks to flying if we get our Delirium. Speaking of flying, this chick is just what we want, and it can even come back later in the game if it dies. That's the obvious choices sorted, and we have 3 out of 11 down.
Won't be easy.
Next up, we start our engines with Burnout Bastronaut and the lands to back him up, as the Menace will help early, and if we reach 4 speed, Double Strike means another treasure. But now we're going gambling. See, for 1 mana, the most efficient way to get unblockable in red is Mountain Walk, but there's no easy way to give our opponents mountains. I'm banking that in a 4-player game, someone else probably plays red, so I decided to include 2 Mountain Walk cards and pray? It's on plan, and while I started Magic proper with Mirrodin Besieged, I had a little stint as a child in Odyssey, and remember my first ever foil was a Dwarven Grunt. The exact card is sadly now lost to time, but I was very excited to have a reason to order another foil to add to the deck and bring it back to the collection. Fervent Champion earns a slot thanks to some synergy we'll cover later, spoilers we want to give our Double Strike Commander equipment, and Kellan attacks early and can upgrade to gain a similar Double Strike synergy later. One weird choice I'm eager to test is Stonewrite as an alternate win condition. That's why we need 30 treasures to win officially. If we just have 10 mana available between treasures and mountains and a Stonewrite with Knuckles, we get to counter 21 commander damage awfully fast. Dragon Master Outcast has struggled to find a home lately, but I love him here as he can chip in early and then generate dragons later. To round it out, Rabbit Battery is both an artifact, a quick creature and a haste enabler for later on. Next up, Mana Rocks, which was a much easier search as there's only about 13 or 14 choices, never mind good ones, so here we go. And yes, Strike Master and Magda are also honorary Mana Rocks that can also attack sometimes, so even better. This Planar Lens can be a solving in your deck, but I made a promise I wouldn't put solving into my regular decks in 2025, and I intend to keep it, even if I adore this Sonic art. I'll be keeping that one to one side for later. 2 Mana Rocks are crucial for this deck, so that's almost it for our mana ramp, but there is a lone Cursed Mirror. It's my favourite mana rock ever with so much utility, so I think every red deck needs one. And phew, that's got us to turn 3's main phase 2, but what next? Now we need to amass artifacts, and the best way to do that is to keep dealing damage. We want some evasive damage dealers and ways to grow our artifact count, and preferably do both at once. Goldspan Dragon and Professional Facebreaker are our best ways to make our count real big, real fast, and Go-Go gives us an extra Knuckles, which is the same. Loyal Apprentice makes an evasive, hasty artifact each turn, which is more or less exactly what we want. Goblin Engineer can find one of our artifacts and turn treasure into something better, and likewise Brayer can turn it into card advantage while also giving us an evasive threat on entry. For our final creatures, Academy Manufacturer and Zorn are no surprise in their treasure deck as they magnify our output a lot. while Stridehanger gives us both bonus artifacts and extra evasive creatures. Next up is our artifact suite, as while treasures and rocks are great, we want more to reach the magical 13 number to win. Going back to Knuckles' double strike, anything that procs from damage gets twice as good here, so I've included a set of the best swords. And while sort of the Animus is just an attack trigger, its ramp is always welcome. Knuckles of course needs his gloves, and it's no surprise this was chosen for the other secret lair, as it's a super strong ability for him and could generate enough treasures to win the game on the spot. Gold Clamp doesn't especially synergize well with Knuckles, but with all of the 1-drops in our deck that will fall off fairly quickly, it's our best source of card advantage. Not that we can't get a few more, as Mask of Memory does synergize especially well with our Trample, and either will always find a token so we can draw a card. Hammer is a lot of mana, but treasure helps with that and makes all of our future equips free, so it's like an investment with our treasure. Finally, Basilisk Collar's lifelink is always welcome, and with double strike makes blocking Knuckles all but impossible. And all these equipments can make attacking with our 1-mana creatures tenable further into the game. Chainsaw is a neat way to up our artifact count while adding some much needed interaction, which moves us on from our artifacts to just that. I don't leave a red deck at home without a Bolt and a Slice normally, but thanks to our treasures, Bottle Cap Blast gets a chance to shine, offering more damage and bonus treasure over the Slice. And being mono red means we really do want Warp and Surge to deal with non-creature threats, or anything too big for red, as a recent Galta reminded me. Rifle Banditry is our bulwark of choice, given they'll give out some treasures, and it's worth remembering our 2 protection from red swords can grant our own creatures immunity from the bandits. And finally in this slot, Saheeli's Directive is a must include, as with all these treasures it can pull out a lot of mana and equipment without needing to sacrifice our treasures. I've said Knuckles 16 times in this script already, so you can gather he's probably important to our game plan, and requires protection. He has haste already, so while some other creatures can make use of it, I'm leaving out the boots and greaves for now. That said, sometimes the best defense is a good offense. If Knuckles could generate 6 treasure by being on board, he's basically free the next time we cast him and can instantly get value with haste. To protect our massive treasures, we are left with but one card, a deal with the devil. Tibalt's Trickery is our only universal counterspell that can stop a rogue Cyclonic Rift or Vandal Blast, and while it's risky, red mages are no strangers to that. As for Knuckles protection, Deflecting Swat is our best way, but given this list so far has no other game changers, I'm not looking to change that for this until I've got to play it more to decide if this is a power level 2 or 3 deck. Otherwise, while ideally we want to let our treasures amass dreaming of counting to 30, having multiple treasure also makes Knuckles better able to utilise defensive reactionary spells. And while Red gets a little hexproof or counter spells, we can redirect pain somewhere else. Will's Reversal is a swap that can be even better, and Return the Favour offers the flexibility of either or for an extra mana. Other protection we can utilise include a handy Smoke Bomb that's a personal favourite, and I've never seen anybody else cast it, but it can also help us make treasure next turn thanks to granting Unblockable. It's also a super tricky card for our opponents as it gives everything Shroud. This can prevent your opponent's synergies too, such as preventing an equip or stopping an aura, but bear in mind it will also stop your own equips. The Silver Shroud costume is our last artifact, and while it only gives our creatures Shroud, which is less cute, being unblockable is just as much value to us. Finally in this slot, Plaza of Heroes and Talon Gates are much easier to hold up with treasures than lands, and that leads us to our penultimate section in lands. My favourite part of building a monocolour deck is getting to find cool utility lands, as we don't need nearly as much mana fixing. Fountain Port and Saucer can turn treasures to cards in a pitch. Demolition Field and Wastelanders interact with our opponent's lands, and when Knuckles dies, Opal Palace can help bring him back bigger. Bonders and War Room provide more card advantage, and Microsieve can copy an equipment or something else late game. And finally, a Valakut, as we still have a lot of mountains and there isn't another deck I can play my Date Stamp Valakut in anyway, until that future video. No doubt there are more lands worth including, and my full build has a few extra, but in monocolor it's fairly easy to slot out or in what you have access to for mountains, so I'm happy to leave the land slot as flexible. And that brings us to 91 cards? Wait, but Commander requires 100 cards. Once I got to this point, I felt I had the core of what I wanted the deck to be in place, and that leaves us with 9 flex slots. We want more evasion, so maybe you want to include some bigger dragons to swing with, some more card advantage that I skimped on a little in the core build, some more equipment, some more double strike for more treasure triggers, or just your pet cards. We want them all, but there isn't space. For my final 9, I have added some pet cards new and old, with Yuffie being perfectly on theme, growing our artifact count while also being a pseudo ramp source on turn 2, with our 1-drops if someone plays a mana rock. As long as you don't mind making an enemy, I totally don't. Hate is some further card advantage that can boost Knuckles a lot in a flash, and we generally cast what we find thanks to our treasure. Adaptive Omnipool can grow Knuckles massive with just a few treasures, and Power Balance is simply a pet card that, thanks to our own deck's low mana curve, might just come up enough to earn its 2 mana cost. I enjoy copy effects, and we already have a few, but Flare of Duplication is great for the surprise factor, allowing us to have a response even without treasure. Reign of Witches has the best word in Magic, Cascade, and synergizes with our army of treasures especially well. There and Back Again's Ring can make getting an attack with a 1-drop late game possible, and then if you get to Smaug, 14 treasures is probably going to win the game. Bornog is the only card that references Knuckles being a warrior in the deck, but Cowards Can't Block Warriors is absolutely my favourite line of rule text on a Magic card, so I had to include it when I had a warrior commander. And last but not least, Crimson Caravanneer is actually pretty close to Knuckles if you squint, so I decided it had to join the party. In fact, I would like more Double Strike in the deck so I can double up on Knuckles' triggers, but alas, decks can only have 100 cards. For now, until I make that video. But anyway, that's the 100. There are so many cards I wanted to add, and well, this video was made more as a run through of how my deck building process works, as Knuckles only comes out today. I don't even know if I'll make it through the secret lair hell queue to even get a Knuckles as I'm recording this video, so once I come to the table with Knuckles as either a proxy of a card, I'll get to find out exactly how right or wrong my ideas were. At least I have these flex slots at hand if things prove I was a little too off. Looking at my finished deck list, I think I could do with a few more evasive creatures, but I'll test it a few times and then come back to see how I felt. For now, thanks for joining me on the journey, and good luck getting a Knuckles.
It's incredible. I've never seen anything like it.
Okay, but just as I finished the video, they announced this. We've got a great command tower. Beautiful. But it's the Master Emerald Shrine, which is what Knuckles protects. But it's Knuckles' mono red, so you shouldn't put this in your deck. Or maybe you do? I don't know, but I wish this was any other land.